This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 649 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, makers of new Nalox Advanced. Support your horse's digestive tract from beginning to end with Nalox Advanced. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from Megan Ayrault. Megan is one of the leading authorities on animal massage in the country, and she wrote the book Horse Lover's Guide to Massage, which I happen to have, and it's really good. She also wrote the book The Dog Lover's Guide to Massage. Do you see a trend here? Megan is a licensed massage practitioner for animals and people, and a professional educator with a master's degree in teaching from Seattle University. Prior to her current bodywork career, Megan worked in schools and with horses and enjoyed teaching therapeutic riding for children and adults with disabilities. The therapy horses, as well as her own animals, were her original motivation for learning massage. Today's tip is all about pressure. Megan busts some animal massage myths and clears up the how much pressure debate. But first, let's hear from today's sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products.
Well, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know we talk a lot about Kentucky Performance Products, and that's because they are a name you can trust to give you the most value for your supplement money. Kentucky Performance Products offers supplements designed to target specific problems and are made with high-quality ingredients included at effective levels. The company's supplements are intended to complement, not compete, with your dressage horse's current feeding program, guarding against over-supplementation, and each product is backed by sound research and a money-back satisfaction guarantee. And today we'd like to talk to you about Nalox, the original equine antacid. It's recommended by veterinarians and leading horsemen as a way of maintaining a healthy stomach, which reduces the risk of ulcers. Nalox can be given daily to horses exposed to stressful conditions or as needed when shipping, competing, or during stall confinement. You know, you can learn about Nalox and all the products at Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
And now, enjoy today's tip. Welcome back, Megan, to tell us about more things on massaging your horse and your dog and doing body work and helping them feel wonderful and lovely. The only problem with doing these tips with you, Megan, is you talk about all this stuff and it makes me sleepy and relaxed.
Yeah, well, if you spend time massaging your horse, you'll get some of the same benefits, actually.
That's true. It does make you feel good when you see their eyes get all sleepy and happy like that.
Yeah.
It is nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of a fantastic and handy-dandy tip do you have for us today?
So I wanted to talk about a very common question and also a very common misconception is about how much pressure to use when you're doing massage for horses.
Oh, well, sure.
Actually,
I would get, is it big animal, more pressure? Is that how it works?
Yeah, right. That's the myth. Yeah, I have an ebook, one of the free ones on my website. It's the top 10 myths about animal massage, and that's one of them. Like, you must be really strong to massage horses. And there are some particular techniques or styles of bodywork where strength is a factor, and there is more oomph put into it. But there are so many techniques where there is actually zero pressure, really. There's really the whole range that can be appropriate depending on what exactly you're doing and what's going on with your horse's body. And so what's really important is just to really pay attention and experiment and adjust your pressure so that you get hopefully just the right amount, which, there's a little bit of a range there, so you don't have to necessarily get too intimidated by it having to be perfect, of course. But the fact is that usually less is more. So I've been doing this for about 12 years now, And I expect to be doing it for a lot longer because I don't want to ever stop. And I do find that, just the better I get over the years, and I have an advantage, of course, that I spend a lot of time doing it since I do it for a living, but the better you get with techniques, and it gets easier and easier, actually, because you get more accurate and use less pressure and less effort. And actually, in almost all cases, the less you work, if you're doing something, kind of accurately and appropriately, if you can actually kind of relax and not work so hard at it, your horse will actually have an easier time letting things go.
So pushing harder isn't necessarily better.
Right.
Okay.
And particularly, I would say pushing harder is virtually always counterproductive.
Really?
Because pushing harder is not really the same as more pressure.
So explain to me the difference.
Yeah. So if you make contact with an area on your horse's body, and you make contact in a friendly way at the surface, and then you gradually lean into it, and then your body enjoys that pressure and relaxes and lets you in, kind of softens as you add more pressure. You can add quite a bit of pressure sometimes, and it can be it may or may not be necessary, but it can be, sometimes it is necessary to get certain types of effects, to lean into something with some more weight. But if you push into it, it virtually always makes the horse's body guard against you.
Into pressure, which we've heard a lot of people, the horse is he pushes back. So when you're using pressure against the horse, it's a little bit like pressing the brakes on your car. You don't want to just push the pedal to the floor.
Yeah.
You want to put your foot on it and gradually push that brake pedal down so that you don't slam against your seatbelt.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
And then
use
you
that.
use that. It's free. So you have to kind of gauge the reaction you're getting from the horse. Now, explain to the difference between the horse letting you in when you gradually increase the pressure and moving away from you. What is the person going to see or feel differently in moving away from you versus letting you in?
Yeah. Well, I would say that usually, if they move away from you, then you're using too much pressure and you need to lighten up. That's a little bit different. The letting you in versus pushing back at you. Letting you in is basically you're going to feel like maybe sometimes I will sort of imagine the muscle or the tissue I'm working on like clay, and if it feels kind of tight and hard, it's like clay that doesn't have enough moisture in it. And as it gets a little bit hydrated, it'll soften up and you can work with it. That could be one analogy, but also if you think of different like balls you might play with, volleyball or soccer ball or something, and maybe one that's not inflated enough, doesn't have enough tone, and it doesn't have any kind of life or spring to it. That's a little bit too lax. But if it's overinflated and you push on it, it feels like you're pushing on a brick wall. There's just absolutely no give. That's overinflated, and then what you want is it might be a high tone because your horse is athletic. So it's not necessarily that it's soft for it to be healthy, but there has to be kind of just a feeling of spring or aliveness to it.
Okay. So I would let me try to see if this works, because I'm trying to get my head around how this is going to feel, because it's hard to explain feel.
Yeah.
I'll use a cooking analogy since I'm a foodie. Overcooked, tough as leather beef. If you overcook the steak and it's just shoe leather or a roast or something like that, the tactile feel, if you were to put your palm on that, is what I would associate with a muscle that is tight and needs to be released versus a piece of raw meat is a muscle that's extremely relaxed and not under tension at all, basically maybe because where the horse is standing, that muscle's not being used. And a steak that's just medium rare is a muscle that's got healthy tone, because one of the ways they teach you to test the doneness of meat is to touch it, to tactile feel, because if you're working in a restaurant, you can't cut everybody's steak open.
Yeah.
So that might be something that some of our listeners have experience with, because you poke the steak or you poke the chicken to see if the texture is right. And it's meat, it's muscle. So that might be something.
It's a little more than just an analogy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
So that's helping me. I'm trying to. So is that generally and approximately how it would feel?
Yeah, and actually, when your horse does have a chronically tight area, or just temporarily in spasm, it actually does. Well, if it's chronic, it will kind of get a leathery feel to it because it's chronically dehydrated. Because when it's tight, the fluids can't pass through there
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
But the good thing is the horse is still alive.
Well, yeah.
Their tissues can still respond and change.
We can fix it.
Yeah. You can rehydrate that area.
That's
because connective tissue will change. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, so add pressure gradually.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then when you have added some pressure, you want to decrease pressures gradually too when you're changing where your hand is, or if you're not sure if maybe you're being too heavy and you want to lighten up gradually, and you can just kind of get into this, you stay connected with your horse's body, and as you kind of come in and out of more or less pressure, and try to feel where you find that balance of the horse, enough pressure so that your horse is, their body and their mind also is kind of engaged with you and what your hands are doing, but not so much pressure that they feel like they have to tighten up and guard the area, because what you'll find is when you use too much pressure, and this also happens a lot if you're using your hands too quickly, is the horse may or may not hurt the horse, but even if it's not, or if it's hurting them, they might move away or give you some kind of signal like that. But even if it's not hurting them, they might just kind of tighten the area and to protect themselves, and let you just work as hard as you want at the surface. I mean, if you think about when your horse wants to be scratched or groomed, we can add a lot of pressure and we can work really hard, and it can feel actually good to the horse to get that nice scratching, especially in the springtime when they're shedding. So, but all those effects with that greater pressure is going to be right at the surface. It's going to be more with the coat and the skin and the very surface muscles, because they're going to be kind of tightening up in response to the heavier pressures. They'll kind of tighten their muscles, and that'll keep the physiological effects that you might create. It'll kind of keep you out more at the surface and not let you in so deep. Very interesting stuff. How about that? I didn't know all that stuff. It is very interesting, and it gets really interesting when you start doing it with your horse and experiencing how this or that feels, or how your horse responds, and it's never boring. Never ever boring. Never ever boring. There are very few things in the horse biz that are. Tell our listeners where they can find you, because they're going to have more questions and they're going to want to listen to and read more stuff. Good, and I love getting emails and questions, and my website is allaboutanimalmassage.com. Write that all out. Allaboutanimalmassage.com. Yeah. No extra stuff. Just write it out. Yep. It's long, but I hope not too hard to remember. Well, they're individually, they're easy to spell. You don't have any tricky ones in there. A lot of people spell massage message. They'll. I get that a lot. MESS, like a phone message.
Yes.
And massage is actually MASSAGE.
So we have to say it massage.
It is fairly easy to misspell, or fairly commonly misspelled. But
massage. So if you are a poor speller, and there are many of us out there, you can go to horsetipdaily.com, because I'm sure you can spell daily with no E at the end. And you can go to Megan's expert page, and it's listed under M for Megan. You can, right there is her website. You can find Megan. You can listen to all of her tips. You've got it under control. Thank you once again for stopping by, Megan, for the great tips on how much pressure to use and how to use it.
Well, thank you.
And don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily, because they make these podcasts possible. Today's tip is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, makers of the new Nalox Advanced. Ask for Nalox Original and new Nalox Advanced at your local tack and feed supplier, or you can visit KPP USA online at kppusa.com. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show. You can subscribe to all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. You can also listen to the shows right on Facebook. The player's right there every day. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.